I want to say hello to everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
It's good to see such a good turnout here. I'm just curious, how many have been on the Appalachian Trail? Do we have any thru-hikers? Beautiful, beautiful. Any section hikers? Very good. Well, let me start off. I'm Andrew Neill, and that's interesting. Non-exonic.
Which one is you up there?
I'm the one in the middle with the big beak. Well, anyway, as she zeroes in on this, I'd just like to give you a little history how I got involved with the Appalachian Trail. It was probably about 2 years before I retired, and that was after spending approximately 35 years in the residential construction field. And my boss called me into his office, and he says, just want to chat a little bit. He says, you know, you're going to be retiring in a couple of years. What are you going to do when you retire? Wow, what am I going to do? I never gave it much thought. So off the top of my head, and apparently I had known about the Appalachian Trail, I had done some hiking prior to, so I knew something about the Appalachian Trail. I says, I'm going to hike the Appalachian Trail. And he looks at me and says, you are? I says, yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea. Now this was 2 years before I retired. So anyways, I got home that night and thinking to myself, wow, I never thought about that. But what does one do when they retire? A lot of things. But I thought this would be the time to basically transform from the working world into retirement. So, in my travels, I still had 2 years to figure out how I'm going to do this, because I never did any long-term backpack. So I went up to a local sports store. Can't remember which it was. But I found this book, and it was by, the last name was Lexington. And it was entitled The Appalachian Trail. So I bought it. I started reading it. And Lexington actually did a thru-hike, but he interviewed different hikers on the trail all the way up to Mount Katahdin, the northern terminus. And it really sounded interesting to me. So, as time went by golly, I'm going to do the Appalachian Trail. And fortunately, this is a little side trip. I went on I think it was a author's reading of a book up in Evanston, and I can't tell you the details because I can't remember where it was or what the book was about. But there was a break in his presentation, and he wanted people, 2 at a time, to get together and just get to know each other. So I sat down with this gentleman from Appleton, Wisconsin, by the name of Dennis Abraham. And we started chatting, well, what brings you here, blah, 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 so forth and so on. Then I told him I was about to retire. He says, so am I. He said, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm thinking about hiking the Appalachian Trail. Wow. I have been thinking about that also. So anyways, that's how our friendship started. Well, we had planned to do it in 2003. But as you can see, it's 2004 when we did it. But I retired in 2003, and unfortunately, I had a mishap with my right knee. I tore a cartilage. So I'm talking to Abraham, who was up in Appalachian at the time, telling him my problem. And I says, I won't be able to hike with you. And he says, it's quite all right, I'll wait for you. So anyways, the year passed, my knee got better, and we planned to hike the Appalachian Trail. Well, as you can see, March 14th in September, that's 19 years ago. And I tell you, I still have flashbacks. I still have flashbacks, for sure. Lost my train of thought there. I had flashbacks. So anyways, we did finally make our plans to meet at Spring Mountain. It's the southern terminus of the trail. And before I go into it any further, I'm going to have to go back to my table because I do have some notes there. But I would like to give you a little history of how the Appalachian Trail came about. It all goes back to, let's see my notes.
I can get one over there, it's fine.
It actually goes back to
Thank you.
1900. And there, Benton McCabe looked south from the treetops from a mountain in Vermont called Stratton Mountain. And he had a vision of a trail leading all the way down from the north to the south of the mountain. And that was 1900. In October 1921, he presented a paper. By the way, Ben McCabe was an architect. And he presented a paper to his firm, and it was called, the paper actually was published in the Journal of the American Institute of Architects. And in that, he basically outlined his vision of what he saw the Appalachian Trail should be. In 1923, the first specific sections were completed in New York State. In 1925, the Appalachian Trail Conference is formed as a confederation under Major William Walsh. Now you might ask, what is a confederation? Well, there were more people that saw the same vision throughout the states involved. And they became involved in the confederation, the Appalachian Trail Confederation. And basically was going to manage the trail. Now, there wasn't a completed trail as of yet. It was just a vision. And in 1931, Marion Avery takes over leadership of the Confederation. In 1937, the AT is fully connected from Maine to Georgia. Now the question comes to mind is, okay, who did all this work? Well, like I say, as we all know, I'm sure, there are more hikers than we can imagine, especially in this day and age. So each state basically formed a hiking club. And there are essentially approximately 14 hiking clubs, one in each state that forms the Confederation. And they have annual meetings as well as quarterly meetings at different sections throughout the trail, basically to govern the trail. And as I mentioned, 1937, the trail was completed. Now there again, how was it completed? Basically by volunteers. There are over 6,000 volunteers on a yearly basis that go out on the trail to maintain it. In 1938, Appalachian Trailway Agreement became associated with the National Park Service, the Forest Service, and the states. But at that time, 1938, apparently a number of hurricanes came through the eastern coast and basically tore the trail up. In 1948, Earl Schaefer reported was the first thru-hiker that did the trail. It was 48. The community of the AT is restored after hurricane damage in the wartime effort. And there again, it goes back to the volunteer hiking clubs that maintain the trails, basically restored the trails to its present condition or improved condition. That was in 51. And I might mention here, for you ladies, 1952, Mildred Norman Ryder becomes the first woman to thru-hike the Appalachian Trail. And like I say, yeah, I have to tell you this too. Oh, here it is. Okay, this is what I was looking for. In 2005, the Appalachian Trail Conference renames itself the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. So that's the name of the organization now that oversees the entire trail. The Appalachian Trail Conservancy, which is a proper name. They want to conserve it. Here again, the Conservancy has been trying to basically conserve a corridor for the whole trail. And I can't tell you the exact mileage, but on each side of the trail, right and left, they wanted to have a preserved trail corridor for the trail. And that was accomplished in 2014. There was only 7 miles that remained, and it encompasses 196,225 acres projected since 1978. And now the Appalachian Trail has a protected corridor through the East Coast. Nothing can be built on it, nothing can encroach upon it. In 1921, the trail celebrated its 100th year. A couple of statistics I want to point out to you. As you see up there on the screen, when I did it, it was 2,174 miles. And in 2023, just last year, it had grown by 4.1 miles. However, the total distance in the trail currently today is 2,198 miles. And there again, you might ask, well, why did it change? Well, as we all know, being hikers, and depending on the number of people that are hiking, there's damage done to the trail, not only from foots or feet, but also from weather, rain, erosion, and what have you. And there's some portions within the trail that gets much more usage than other portions due to the fact of the location, such as outside of New York City, or up in Massachusetts. You get to some of the bigger towns, and you get more people on it. Now, when Badger and I, that's another thing I want to mention too, it's a tradition, if you're going to hike the trail, one of the oldest ones in the world, you take on the trail name. And what is a trail name? Pick one out. I became known as Papa Bear, and Badger, who was from Wisconsin, became Badger. So that was our trail names, Papa Bear and Badger. I want to say probably 90% of the people that we met on the trail had trail names. some did not. It was a volunteer if you wanted one or not. When Badger and I had finished up at Mount Katahdin, up in Maine, and like I say, that was back in September, latter part of September, you basically register going up Mount Katahdin, the northern terminus, going up, and you register when you're coming down. Now, when we came down, as I signed the book, you were basically assigned a number of a person finishing the trail. And I was, as I recall, probably about 315, 320, somewhere in there. Just to give you an example of the trail, today, the number of thru-hikers, back in 2002, there were 1,224 thru-hikers, or I should say thru-hikers. 1,226 hikers that finished the trail. And out of that, you had northbound hikers, there were 897, southbound hikers, there were 77, and flip-flop hikers, there was 148, and section hikers of 104, which gave you the 1226. Now you might ask, what's all this northbound, southbound, flip-flop section hikers mean? Well, if you're heading up north, you become a northbound hiker, also known as a no-boat. If you're heading south, you're a slow-boat. And if you're flip-flopping, that's what you are. You're a flip-flopper. Now, what does that mean? Well, you could start at Springer Mountain, and you're heading up north, but you're only going to go up to Harper's Ferry, which, by the way, is the main headquarters of the Conservancy. And then you basically get a ride or a train, and you take it up to the northern terminus in Mount Katahdin, and you hike back from there. You are a flip-flopper. Now, why do people do that? Depending on the weather and depending on your strength. Section hikers, well, there have been some hikers there that have been doing sections. And I say probably for 20 years, because I recall when I was up in Maine finishing off, I ran across two gentlemen. They were coming north, pardon me, I was going north, they were coming south. And we stopped and talked a little bit, and I found out that they'd been doing section hikings, and this was the last section, and this was their 20th year on the trail. Another interesting fact I want to bring out also is, as we know in hiking, there's ups and there's downs. Ups and downs. Well, on the whole trail, there is 464,500 feet of elevation change. It's going down, and coming back up, going down, and coming back up. Thank you. Now, just bringing out some other facts. As I say, the starting point is usually down at Springer Mountain in Georgia. Then it goes up to Axter State Park in Maine. And there's actually 14 states you can travel to. In addition to that, you have national parks. You can hike through Great Smoky National Park, Blue Ridge Parkway, Shenandoah National Park, Harper's Ferry, and as I mentioned, this is the headquarters of the Appalachian Trail Conference, and the Delaware Water Gap. Besides that, you'll be hiking through, let's see how many, 2, 4, 6, 8 national forests. Chattahoochee, Nacogdoches, Cherokee, Pisgah, Jefferson, George Washington, Green Mountain, and White Mountain National Forests. A lot of ground. As another interesting fact I like to bring out also, as you come up to the state of Vermont, there's a trail up there that's called the Long Trail. Why is it a long trail? Well, it's a long trail. It starts at the Massachusetts border and goes up to Canada, 274 miles. Now, 100 miles of that is coexistence with the Appalachian Trail. And as you hike in Vermont up to the junction of the Appalachian Trail, it makes a 90-degree turn and heads east. And that goes over to New Hampshire, up to Maine, and up to the top, the finish. I want to just emphasize one other thing about the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. They have a lot of information. If you really want to get into the depths of the Appalachian Trail, I suggest you go online or contact them. I have the address here, as well as one of these, I don't know what you call them, square barcodes or whatever they are. You can use your phone, and it'll give you all the information how to contact them. But it's got a wealth of information, how to prepare, safety factors, and etc. And with that said, I'm going to pass out some journals. Well, let me ask you this. Is anybody familiar with the Appalachian Trail Conservancy? Okay, I'm just going to pass out some journals that they put out on a quarterly basis, and it's all about the trail. And if you take a look at them, pass them on, and return them, I'd appreciate it. If I can back up a moment. Starting off, as I mentioned, I weighed my backpack, and it's 55 pounds, and I had to get rid of some of it. And I think I mentioned that I got rid of about 3-4 pounds of food. And during the trek, I ran out of food a couple of times. And the other thing that sustained me was none other than a Snicker bar or two. And I really have found a real good liking for Snicker bars, even to this day. And with that said, my daughter's gonna pass out little Snicker bars for all to enjoy.
Yeah.
At this time, I'm gonna present basically a sideshow. And this is at the beginning. And as I had mentioned, weight is important. The backpacks are weight adjusted for me. As I told you, I rid of a lot of my food. I had too much food packed to carry me through. I only kept enough food for 3 days, which I maintained throughout the thru-hike. But occasionally I did wear out the food that I had. And the other thing that sustained me was Snicker bars, at least 2, coming down into a town. And there again, you usually ran across trail town where you could use the cost. Not only that, if you want to take a day or 2 off the trail, which is known as 0 days, you could, which we certainly took advantage of. And basically, got hotel rooms, took showers, went out to restaurants and had good meals, and resupplied, and 1 or 2 days later hit the trail again. It's back to me again, the Savage Track. Now there's a approach trail. I think we mentioned this. Okay, the approach trail is actually 8.5 miles from the beginning of the approach trail. You're not on the trail yet. It's the approach trail. And you basically, if you want, trail the 8.5 miles, and it's an uphill climb. Badger and I decided that, no, we didn't know what our capabilities were, so we figured let's start at the beginning instead of taking the time and effort to go up the approach trail. Now, as you can see there, we got the mileage of 2108. And there again, as I mentioned, why this mileage changes year to year depending on the weather erosion, impact and so forth, trees down, and rerouting the trail. That's why the miles will change depending. And that's really the beginning of the approach trail. That's Badger Knee, and that's at the beginning, the start, Springer Mountain, 3,000 some 82 elevation, 0 miles, there are no boats, heading north. Full trail at the beginning, a little foggy there. And definitely water is a necessity, and recommended all water be filtered and treated, and there again, as part of the equipment, filtering equipment and water. We also need camp stoves, utensils, pots and pans. There would be a pot, I just had a one pot. And this is our first good climb, Sassafras Mountain, first good mountain. It's what, 3,400 some feet. But I remember starting off in Springer there, and I could probably, and it was a good incline, I can't say what the incline is from the beginning there, but I want to say probably 20, 30, 40 yards up. But wow, this pack is heavy. My legs are aching. So I would stop and rest a bit and then continue on. And there, I would say it probably takes you a good week to 2 weeks to really get into shape where you can just climb up and down the mountain, up and down. The most we ever did was one night, or I should say one day, it was 25 miles, and that was up near the Delaware water gap. And my son and his friend met us at the water gap, and we were going to meet them at a shelter up the trail, and they were going to meet us and bring up pizza at the shelter. So anyways, we're hiking along, and here again, for the most part, the trail is marked fairly good. There are some sections that aren't, and I have to say, I got lost a couple of times in the backtrack and pick up the places. Yes. This is Peter. He's from New Zealand. We met him on the trail, and he basically stayed with us for, I think we made it up to Bowling Green, and he wasn't doing too good. He had to get off the trail. And another thing I mentioned too, we're going to be meeting a lot of interesting people, friendly, outgoing, same interests that you have, and you create a friendship with these. And it's interesting, I say you kind of hip hop up the trail. They might be ahead of you one day, and the next day you make it up to them, and vice versa. And you create a friendship as the trail goes on. Okay, at the Yellow Blaze is an exit route off the trail, which you can find throughout the whole trail system. Now, does everybody know what a blaze is?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you see in that tree, there's a yellow rectangular, it's actually painted on, it could be a metal tag. It's about 2 inches wide and about 6 inches long. Now, the Appalachian Trail basically has a white blaze, and you can follow these blazes, and they're not on every tree. But if you look down the trail, I want to say 20, 30 yards, you're going to see another white blaze. And you know you're on the right trail. So you watch the blazes as you travel. In this case, the yellow blaze is an off trail if you want to get off the trail. This is, I can't bring it up, but I think this is Neill's Gap. And along the trail, you'll be coming out of the woods, and there'll be highways. You've got to watch crossing and so forth. And usually there's a what? I can't say a recreation, but there's usually a supply house, washroom facilities, information, phones, and etc. I can't think how far that is from Spring Mountain, but anyways, up the trail. Of course, this is a good outhouse. This is prime condition if you need to go. This is another hiker hostel. I can't remember where it was, but you will find along the trail these hostels, and there are people that are willing to help you. They're also known as trail angels. You can be hiking along for a stretch. You will approach a country road or a main road, and all of a sudden you'll find refreshments. There'll be coolers there. There'll be water, soda, beer, and they'll have containers there of peanut butter sandwiches, muffins, Snickers, you name it, and water also. And these are known as trail angel stocks. And you'll find these all along the trails. And of course, water is important. I'm just going to make sure you filter it. It's Badger again, and Peter, the spoon man, is taking a break. And you can see the angle of that mountain behind them. It's typical, but there are switchbacks. Here's some more trail magic. Andrew's birthday, 50 years old, at Hog Pen Gap, 37 miles from Spring. And here's another example of a trail angel. They're out there for maybe an hour, they could be out there for 4 hours, they could be out there all day. And they got refreshments, sometimes hot coffee, which really tastes good. And Hog Pen Gap, there's Peter again. One must eat to maintain his strength. Typical breakfast, as you can read: coffee, cocoa, instant milk, powdered milk, vitamin milk. Backpackers burn anywhere from 400 to 600 calories per hour. Right, 4,000 calories a day, plus or minus. Badger lost 50 pounds on this trek. I lost 26. I have to say, we felt pretty good. Typical trail. As you can tell, spring is starting to spring. Green grass is starting to grow on the sides. Trees are starting to get buds. We basically hike with spring. Dinner was basically a one-pot dinner. We basically mixed everything in one pot, heated it up, and ate it. I wouldn't say this is typical, but there's a typical night gathering. There's what, 2, 4, 6, 7, or 8 people there. And there's, as I mentioned, trail shelters along, maintained by the hiking clubs within that state. And you'll see some coming up. Camaraderie again. Another trail magic. This is up at Trade Mountain. Hamburgers, pickles, and beer. A cold hiking day, and you can see snow in the background. Here's a typical shelter. All of them are somewhat different, but offering shelter, especially really appreciated when it's raining and cold. There again, take advantage. You find water on the trail, fill up your canteens or bottles. Another shelter, Deep Gap Shelter, 63 miles from Swinger Mountain. It's a little bit open, like I say, each one of them a little bit different. I think there was a lunch break. Another typical trail, uphill. As you can see, it's March 24th, moving along. And that's on the Georgia-North Carolina border. Second state of encounter between North Carolina and Georgia, heading north. Typical view, just beautiful. And you won't see this from the interstate. You gotta get up. Well, I guess there's some spots you can pull over and look, but nothing like this. There's yours truly looking out of a abandoned fire tower. newly constructed water bars. Right in the middle of the picture is a log that bisects the trail. And basically, this is a trail that basically uses the trail as a river, a stream bed. And with rain, collects into the trail, comes down there, and erodes the trail. Well, these logs basically suppress the rush of the water and divert it off the trail. So it controls the flow of water and helps to maintain the trail longer before it does really need to be basically rerouted. Another, let's see, back gap, going to North Carolina, standing Indian campground. There again, another national forest. Usually the forests occasionally do have shelters, but definitely good camping areas, rest areas, washrooms, and sometimes even showers. There again, another bubbling stream. Van Byron Memorial Tower in Wayne Bald, 117 miles and 3 long. As I said, there again, Memorial Tower. I can't tell you too much about John B. Byron, but that's looking down out of it. Moving south from Wayne Bald. And there's another one, that's a blowdown that crossed the trail. Fortunately, the trail club taking care of that section, basically cut a pathway so we could basically descend down and through that area. Yeah, we had snow. It was at the end of March, March 31st. It was Badger's tent. Out of the depths of slumber came into the snow. There again, bear bags. We are in bear country, and it's recommended that you do take all your food and basically place them in the bag and hang them up in the tree. I forget, I think at least 16, if not 20 feet, and away from the trunks of other trees as best you can, because you don't want to encourage the bears. Snow-covered trail. And of course, there's always monuments placed along the trail of those that have fallen, and basically members of trail clubs that help maintain the trails through the years. Dedicated volunteers. For the road crossing, of course, you always have to be careful. I know there was 1 or 2 times in out of the forest, and my trail angel saved me. Didn't go on the road, and the car passed me right in front of me. Lunch break, 155 miles out, with a type of shelter. And this is Fontana Dam, which is at the southern tip of the Great Smoky Mountains. And you have to cross the dam to get into the park. And as you can see, the water's low there too, 2004. 163 miles from Florida Mountain. And as you can still see the remnants of winter, trees have not started blooming yet, snow on the ground. And another shelter, Russell Field Shelter. And we stopped there for a snack. But the reason it's enclosed in there is twofold: to keep you warm, also to keep you safe from the bears. Fortunately, we did not see any bears in Smoky National Park. Which way do you go? Well, it all depends. If you're heading north or you're heading south. But if you see up in the upper left-hand corner, there's I think it's a grass disc. It's actually a geographic marker that basically gives you information of elevation and the location of this particular park. It's in Smoky National Park, the highest point on the trail. Cleveland, along, if you make that high, I think it's 6,600 feet elevation. Let's look at the water here. There it is again. 193 Harnison Springer. It's in April, beginning in April. And this is Newfound Gap, it's in the park also. This road bisects going east to west or west to east. And it's pretty crowded. They're again in April. And it's interesting because a lot of people are interested in these thru-hikers. It's nuts. That's what they do. They're just spectacular. Pictures don't do it justice. You gotta see it to believe it. More white stuff, slipping and sliding. It's in the park also. It's a moldering curvy, all above ground. This is at Peaks Corner Shelter, 240 miles away, but there again, many times, it's a relief. And there again, you gotta go, you gotta go. Davenport Gap, this is the northern boundary of Great Smoky Mountains. Mountain Mama's country store and bunkhouse. And I think since I've been there, the place has been sold to a hunting group. This is no longer a campground, but there's one of the cabins. And that's Badger's wife, Nola. And actually, Nola and my wife, Suzanne, would meet us on the trail. I think they met us 4 or 5 times, once a month at least, which was great. And this is stream outside of there. Beautiful country. And you can see a hint of green coming. Mid-April. Little water, more water. Another shelter. 250 some miles from Spring Mountain, Walnut Mountain Shelter, Northern Max Patch, which is famous spot. Here we go. And green stuff and flowers, wildflowers, as we continue north. And you know you're making progress. We're following spring, but before long, we'll be ahead of us. Hot Springs. Okay, this is Hot Springs coming up. The sign, as you can see, is weather green. There's Hot Springs. 271 from Springer. Mid-April. Another view of it. It's actually when we were hiking out, took these pictures. And while we were there, there's no on the right, and Suzanne, fourth one in, with Peter, myself, Badger, and Nolan. And there was what, well, equal 16. And they were having Trail Fest that weekend. And they're there again once a year. I think they moved the location every year, but the weekend is just filled with hikers as well as past hikers, as well as wannabes. And a lot of information, a lot of entertainment, a lot of food, and a lot of camaraderie. Yeah, spring is coming. Spring is here. 3-yard gap, 277. This is just outside of Hot Springs. Heading north. And of course, you'll have memories, as I mentioned, throughout your trek. And usually it's people that have been volunteering for a number of years with the Trail Club, and they put up memorials and remembrance. Another view. Yes, spring. More memorials. Typical countryside, country road. And you can see the path on the right there. Like I say, you gotta be careful crossing those roads. And as you can see, a white blaze there, as I mentioned before, all along the trail, 20-30 yards, as well as the path. It's one of my favorite pictures. It's all wildflowers, the greenery, watering the trail. And all your golfers. Full floor of golf course, all downhill, 290 yards. I don't even know what club to use.
And that is a satellite, and I can't remember where it was taken. But as you can see, I'm pretty sure it was at dusk. More trail there on the left. Yeah, a big bald. Nobody knows how they got there, but the consensus is that the Indians used to clear them and basically graze cattle up there. No one knows for sure how they evolved, but there's a number of balds out there in the southern states. And there again, no vegetation. With balds. That's one of the top of the bars. The guys are looking out. Yeah, he's looking away. There's the train tracks down there. And I'm not sure, I think we're near Bowling Green, but I'm not sure of the location. Oh, Irwin, Tennessee, that's what it was. 340 miles south of Springer, north of Springer, pardon me. Like I say, occasionally you gotta come down the road, and you have to be careful. There's some road blocking, not much though. There's some more sign dedication, where you wanna go. Post office, I think it says 4.1 miles. That was our connection with the folks back home, was the post office. Go pick up your mail. It's Lone Mountain Bluff, 370 miles from Clear. And that's the highest shelter on the AT, 6,000 feet in elevation. And I have to tell you, it was pretty small. If you got 6 people in there, you were crowded. Another bald, you can see the trail. And it's been great memories, I'll tell you. I don't know if you can see, but I think that's Peter down there in the lower right-hand corner on the trail. There you get a blue blaze off the main trail, 1 mile, a lot of falls like this. A lot of them you have to get off the trail, off onto a side trail. Typical cabin that probably goes back, I don't know, late 1700s, early 1800s. It's deteriorating with the weather. And Court Hostel, this is a well-known one. Spent 2 nights there, doing some slack packing. Well, you might ask, what is a slack pack? Well, like I said, we spent 2 nights here, but in order to keep moving, the owner, and I can't recall his name, would drive us out of the shelter, where we spent the night, up the trail, probably about 10, 14, 15 miles, and drop us off, and we'd hike back to here with just a small backpack, which carried water and something to eat. So that's why you call it slack pack. And then the next morning you get up and the owner would drive us up to where he dropped us off and we'd continue. Slack packing. Did that a few times, which was nice. Eating that 45-pound pack coffee bag. That's just a porch of his house there. And those are 3 washrooms you could use, showers, toilets, washing facilities, shower shoe seals, great. Rhododendrons in the bloom. Thousands of them. You gotta see them to believe it. More water crossings. And there's badger, all 4 porch. You can just almost imagine in the water. Okay, that's a dam backed up make a lake, Watauga Dam Lake. And there again, it's beginning of May. Lady slipper, a rare one. Interesting to find that on the trail. It really wasn't on the trail, it was on the side of the trail. And I think we're approaching Delaware water. No. And we've been to the shelter. And it's a typical morning up in the ridge lines. You get clouds below before the sun would warm up the air and move them out. But there again, 3,600 feet elevation. Another monument dedicated to Dick Bradstaff. Not sure who he was, but probably a known of the monument there. I think we're entering another forest, and you see the trail, typical spring. Damascus, it's another famous trail town. We stayed there a couple of nights, no wildflowers. No shelter, we're southern shelter, spent the night there. And he had a Virginia Creeper Trail, another famous trail. Used to have a railroad track that ran along there, but not part of the Appalachian Trail. On Top Elk, typical bald again, and there again they're raising their cows. Mount Rogers National Recreation Area. There you go, solar powered ventilation. Grayson Highland State Park. This is interesting. They have wild ponies through the area here. And you can get pretty close to them. And as you can see the trail there through the summer. More water crossing. This was one of the nicest shelters. We had showers right there at the shelter, which was pretty nice. And you're close enough to town, and I can't remember the town, but we ordered pizza and beef sandwiches that night, and they delivered it. Oh, that was it. Well, yeah. We picked it up. Partnership Shelter, Mount Rogers. Yeah, not cold water. What a treat. One section to another. Atlantic, Virginia, 580 miles, mid-May. Sunlight coming through the forest in the morning. Suspension Bridge, Timberland Creek, 600 miles from Springer. Yeah. Logging. And it basically was a logging mill across the street. This is interesting. I'm going to tell you a story about this location. Badger and I came out, and there's Badger on the right there. Of course, I took the picture. There was another hiker sitting on the rack, and we were looking south. And we're up on the summit. And it was pretty humid. And I think I had mentioned to Badger as well as the other gentleman, I said, boy, it almost looks like we're going to catch some rain. He says, well, look behind you. And we looked behind, and the skies were black. And it started lightning, and it came down in buckets. And of course, we got reindeer, but it came on us too quick. And then we hiked out into the rain. And I'll tell you, I think that day I was the most frightened due to the fact that we could hear the lightning just above our heads. And the rain was coming horizontal, and it was blowing. old hostel, 1880. And there again, the barn was converted into a bunkhouse. And there's always, around the table with Tilly, the first aid hikers for breakfast in 1987. She would serve breakfast for the first aid. I mean, it was elegant. China, coffee, crystal orange glasses. I mean, it was elegant. You have to be there to believe it. 1880. So many. There's the bunkhouse. And you had a shower there, and if you see the black hose basically on the roof there, that's how they warmed the water for your shower. Of course, if you wanted a warm shower, you had to wait maybe 15, 20 minutes. Heath Road was made 300 years old. 664 from Springer. In the end of May. It's a seed to believe. And it is again. And another cabin, I'm sure it went back to the late 17, early 1800s. Late 1800s. Islands. Key Knob, another famous point on the trail. It's overlooking the valley there. It's 11 miles from Springer. There's yours truly. And that's a sight too. It's looking down. At that time, that valley was not protected, but recently that land was purchased, I believe, by the Conservancy, so it is now protected. There will be no development, no further development in that valley. Here he is again. And this is Bob Cave and his son Charlie. They came out and hiked with us for a week. They're from St. Charles. And Bob used to be one of my suppliers when I was working. So it was good to see them and enjoy their company. And they are again. And that's, I believe, is known as the guillotine. It's a rock suspended between two other rocks. And it's called a guillotine, and the trail passes underneath it. Okay, James River, 770 miles from Springer. A little hazy that day, a lot of humidity. As you're looking out. More flowers. Look like some clothes. Might be weeds, I'm not sure. Looking into the distance. Blackman Shelter, 855 miles from Springer. Beginning of June. Oh yes, Shenandoah National Park. There's a good hike. I'm gonna make that out. 1,100 miles to Mount Katahdin, Springer Mountain, about 1,000. And Harper's Ferry, about 8 or 19 miles. And like I say, Harper's Ferry is the center point for the Conservancy, the main operation area. There's Den Hostel, just outside of Harper's Ferry. And then again, when we talk about elegance. Of course, they didn't have luxurious beds, they had bunks and you could use your sleeping bag, but the facilities was very clean, showers, hot and cold water. It was great. You're off the trail. And that's the way I met my wife Suzanne, and that's at Harper's Ferry, 1,000 miles from Springer. And I think there's badger coming up and another hiker, I can't remember. And she is again, didn't want to get too close. I didn't get a shower. It's Main Street, Corpus Ferry, very historic town. From the Columbia River. I think we stayed there 3 or 4 nights. And then, Andrew and I took off. And Suzanne and Noah headed back home. Yeah, Civil War correspondence. Lynn State Park, Maryland. And there's Pilot, Badger, and Polar. And these two gals, I want to say we ran across them, I want to say it was Smoky Mountains. And they're going to hop skipping, running into them, and they run into us. But we could always tell if they were coming up the trail, because they never stopped talking. Constantly. What could they find to talk about? Just look around. They were great company though. Good personalities. Pilot and Poland. And that's just a remnants of, I think it was a grist mill, if I remember right. Farmland, occasionally sometimes you'd have a right of way to a farmland. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but right center picture is a post with a white blaze on it. And that was the trail right through the farmland. Now the trail magic, which is always welcomed and appreciated, gives you hot dogs, hamburgers, beer, water, soda, apple, pear, you name it. There you go, pancakes, hamburgers, soda, fruit, water, equipment repair, anything needed on the trail was ready to be applied. Yes, that is trail magic. Good people. I think it's a black snake, I'm not sure, but we ran across a few of them in this area. I don't believe they were poisonous, it was scary. And there, that's a furnace, and it's a park, and I can't remember the name, Furnace Park? Can't remember. That's it.
How much longer? It's about time.
Ooh, 7:30, it's an hour. You're long enough. I got to talking. Well, there again, we're halfway, symbolic halfway, 1,088 miles from Springer. And we still got another 1,000 miles to go. But I'll have to bring this to a close now. In fact, I think I probably went over time. So I want to thank everybody for their attention. I hope I inspired some of you. And I hope you get out on the trail soon and often. Well, thank you.
Did you want to finish the pictures too? Just go through them?
Well, I could go through them quick. Yeah, let me go through them quick.
Do you have to make reservations for the shelters?
No, first come, first served. And it's Duncannon, old hotel there, there's many hikers stayed at, Doyle Hotel, built around 1900 by Bush. Welcome hikers, another gathering place. Trail names, again, is Flip Flop, Cup of Joe, Crispy Critter. It's another shelter with a skylight. And that one we can't remember the town, but the town shelter is open there, looking out. There's the Indian.
Sounds like he was.
March, yeah. And that's July. High Point State Park, 1,500 feet high. First bear we saw was in the park, but we did see one in the water. At the station, you can catch the train to go into New York City. Main Street, Connecticut, and park it, we kept it in the main square there. Vermont, Massachusetts. Not mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Wet highways, Berkshires. Wife smokes wife, she met us with goodies. Mount Greylock, Massachusetts, caught the rain here. It's a typical trail that you run into at certain points. It's yours truly, it's the rocks again. It's most pleasing. Elevation, it's right in Mount Vermont, that's where McKay had his vision. Looking down from the tower. 10 platform, it's right behind, those are tents. Grill mains. Carbon, more water. Great Rocks Mountain, North Andrew, Vermont. People would build up rocks and different things like that all around them. Stone sculpture placed in the tree. Roaring Brook near Wellington, Vermont. Billington Peak is a ski run. More trail, more woods. Billington Peak again. Then climb, get from Wood State Park, more water, more trail. Badger met his cousin there, they hadn't seen for 42 years. Interesting configuration, more water. Water is where you find it. Take advantage of it. There's a trail again, you can see the white blazes. Fog. More water. When you're, let's see, washing, hung out to dry, you have one of the shelters, there's the showers. And we were treated to lunch by two couples from New Jersey, I believe. Foggy up in the mountain. Badger, that's a camp. Oh, I'm trying to think of what they're called. Carrots that marks the trail when you're in rocky areas. And you basically sight them ahead of you and mark right towards them. There's a tent, North Woodstock, New Hampshire. There's a caretaker. We're currently not just outside North Woodstock. Now we're getting into it. White Mountains. Rugged, but beautiful. And the cairn again. That's the trail right along there, the bridge. More signposts. Another caretaker. They had a fee, usually you had to pay a fee, anywhere from $5 to $8 a night. There's a hut up there. Perfect notch. Nice lodge there. Stayed a day or two there. Beautiful. We've been out onto the notch. Nice good Springs hut. We worked for stay there. In other words, you work for stay. What did you do? Peel potatoes, cleaned, set the table, and you got a free meal. There's the cook, you can pancake breakfast off on the trail again. This is all the White Mountains. Approach the White, Mount Washington, fogged in. The God Railroad will take you up there, down there again. Those are hikers. Trail crosses the tracks. Coming down. The caretaker, Molly, she made up with my boss data sheet back to me at the end of it. I got them in the bank, top of the bank. And we're in Maine, the way life should be. Crossing, Moosehead Notch. This is interesting. I mean, those rocks, the sizes of houses. It took me 4 hours to go 1 mile. You're crawling over, under, and through them. Unbelievable. There's a trail marker. And like I say, crawl under it too. Does it match? Well, definitely get out of there. Inside trail. In the fall, CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps. And she still have the following pictures. All pictures worth it down. 2,000 miles, we made it. There's another trail manager, he's been set up there for a week, and there it is, anything you want, cheeseburgers, hot dogs, hamburgers, hot dogs, beer, soda, water, juice, you name it. Yeah, he didn't know about wood. There's ground, no shelter, no water. Kennebec River, Maine, 2,000 miles. You actually, caretaker would come over and canoe you across the river. And just look at those ruts. That's why it became known as the fall, they were tripping over those. And they were just drying out our tents and so forth. Charlotte Pastel, went from Maine, started to put them on our wilderness. And it's Keith, since then he has died, unfortunately. Crossing the stream. Great Cap Mountain. Okay. Look at time. It's to the far left, you can barely see it, but the end is in sight. There it is. Getting closer. Camping out. Sunrise over the little Mary Lake. September. The tide is in the distance. 2,800 miles from Spring. Getting closer. White House Landing, other hostel, good food. Larry from New Mexico. Bluebell from Texas. Cubits and Castro. Sweaty Pig. Rainbow Stream lean-to, these guys are crossing the stream, and it's precarious, crossing on a log. There it is, a bold bridge. On Katahdin, National State Park, first moose sighting in the Birchers campsite. Started to climb the base of Mount Katahdin, and up we go. Up, 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 up. Up, up, up. We did it! That's it, coming back down in the track to finish. That's where you're signing out. And that's it, folks.
Awesome.